Welcome back to the grind, everybody. Man, another week. How's your week been, Martin?
It's been good. It's been a lot of fun. It's been busy. Got to get a little golf in yesterday, so it's fun.
Now, you played locally, right?
About an hour and a half away. So
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, there was a lot of things, and I got my handy-dandy tablet that I've been carrying around with me, and you've seen me taking notes on. And there's just some things throughout the week that had just kind of come up, and I was like, I'm going to jot that down so we can talk about it today. And one of them was like a lot of these younger kids, like in their 20s, and how they're talking about like playing video games and like just doing all this other stuff besides seems like work. And so I got to thinking about it of like, a lot of these people are talking about, I want to make more, I want to be able to do more. But then at the same time, they're talking about, oh, I'm going to go home and play video games. I'm going to go home and, watch this show, whatever the case may be. And it got me thinking about like, how often does that happen to us in our lives, right? Like, oh, I want this, I need this, but then we make excuses why we can't do it, and we make other things a priority. I think sometimes it's so important to recognize what our goals are and make things a priority that align with that goal. And so I kind of wanted to get your take on this as well, because I know how I feel about it. And in the sense of like, you have to put in the work to get the results that you're looking for. But I kind of wanted to get your take on this as well, as far as like those scenarios.
yeah, no, I mean, I think there's a lot to unpack right there. And I could literally go on for half a day on it, which I won't. It's deep, and I think that probably the first thing that comes to mind is, there's a part where, the Lord says, by their fruit, you'll know them. So you judge a tree by its fruit, right? So if there is no fruit on the tree, the Lord, cursed it or pull it up, right?
Yeah.
Burn it. So when you think of it, you can say whatever you want, but ultimately your actions will determine. That's why it's never about what somebody says. It's about what somebody does. You know what I mean? I could tell my wife that, hey, I love you so much, but if I'm out doing things or I'm messing around, then my actions aren't showing that I love her. So it's all got to be based off actions, which, unfortunately, I think it's, especially with our younger generation, I think it's harder. You got to remember that they've grown up in this environment of there's a low standard. We don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. And I'm not saying this is the case for everyone. There's always outliers.
Yeah.
But it's a different time, right? There's no accountability. We're worried more about people's feelings than truth. Or you have all this stuff that's in play, where back in the day, you didn't have that. You know what I mean? So I think it's harder. I don't want to say it's harder. I think it's harder for them to be able to like push past those bad lids that have been placed on them. Now, ultimately, I think that for most people, they're going to have to get to a point where, they go through life and they experience pain to where like, hey, I don't want this anymore. And they'll grow. And that's why I always think that when somebody has a goal, or if I'm talking to a business owner, the first thing I ask them is, what's your why? And a lot of times they're like, well, why would you even ask me that? Because I need to know, like, if you don't have a big why, once the going gets tough, you're quitting.
Yeah, that's
like,
so good.
I need to know, like, if you have a big why, like you'll do the thing you need to do. Like, yep. God forbid if the doctor said, hey, you got cancer and you got 30 days to live, you're going to do anything possible to keep living. Mm-hmm. Like, so that's how I kind of look at it. Like, a big why, you can accomplish a lot. If you have no why at all, you're probably not going to do anything, right? So everyone's on their own journey. Everyone's going to have to go through that experience. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't have a lot of, and I know this can seem harsh, but like, I personally don't have a lot of, like, if I meet someone that's young and they're like, hey, can you talk? I'll pour into you. But like, I'm one where I'm, I have high standards. And I'm not going to lower my standards for anyone. So, I'll help you, but you know what I mean? You got to be willing to do the work. You got to be willing to grind. You got to be willing to do that. And same with recruits. We talk about athletes.
Yeah.
I could say, hey, you want to get recruited, but if you get done with practice and you go home on your own Xbox all day, you don't want to get recruited. So are you willing to do the work?
Yeah, no, totally. And I think that's been like a common thing I've seen lately is like, I want change. I want something different. But then you're like, well, what are you willing to do? Does that mean 18-hour days? Maybe. Are you willing to do that?
Yeah.
I don't know. And it's like, well, maybe you do need to put in those 18-hour days. Maybe that does mean that, maybe you and your wife aren't spending as much time together during the season. And maybe during that time, God's trying to work on your wife to not rely on you, but to rely on him. Like, I think we get so focused on these instances of like, gosh, why is God doing this? But there's always a reason and purpose as to why God's doing something. So rather than looking at the negative, let's pull out the positive. Like, what can we pull that's positive from this? Yeah, he's working a lot of hours, but now I have all this time to really get in my word and grow in my relationship with the Lord, where my true happiness and everything comes from in the first place. So I think there's always a positive to everything, right? So kind of brings me to the next thing of like, people always saying like, man, it just seems like opportunities are always opening up for certain people.
Yeah. It's so good. So here's the deal. I want you to hold that real quick because I don't want to lose it. I want to go back real quick, but I do want to hear this part. So here's the interesting thing, right? I think a lot of times we get it wrong. So we look at it like, oh God, I can't believe this is happening to me, right? Or we treat God like a genie. Oh God, I'm in trouble, or I need money or whatever. I need you to put it at the door. That's how we treat God. But the truth of the matter is, right, we reap what we sow. So our bad decisions from the past has probably placed you where you are today.
Yeah.
So instead of blaming it on God, right, how about we figure out, hey, how can we make better decisions so in the future we're in a better place?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm just a believer. The minute you fill in the blank where like, if blank, if this was better, or if that person did, or God, whatever the case is, the minute we push blame on somebody else, we've missed the point. We haven't learned the lesson. The lesson is we have to make better choices.
Yeah.
You make better choices, right? You whatever you plant in the seed in the ground today, in the future, not tomorrow, not next week, but in the future, you're going to get a crop. So if you don't like the crop, plant different seeds.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Now the opportunity, because I hear this all the time of like, it just seems like things are constantly opening up for people. And I know we've talked about this before as well, but it's like, at some point you have to move your feet. Like, you have to start doing something. And it's like, okay, well, what are you doing to improve your circumstance right now? Oh, well, this, and it's like the sob story. And it's like, no, it's like time to put on your big boy pants, get up and put in the work. And I'll just use this as an example. And it's not like to pat myself on the shoulder or anything, but it's like right now we're looking for a new location for a salon. My goal was August of next year, but I'm like, I'm going to start putting in the work now, start aligning things now, start planning for August. Get in contact with a realtor, which you guys have so graciously helped us with, to get in contact with a great realtor. And something might open up a lot sooner than that. But it took actions to get the ball rolling. Like, it's not just going to fall into our lap without actually putting in the work.
Correct.
Right? And it's like you've said, and you've said this, God created Earth in 6 days when he could have done it instantly. There's a process that we always have to go through, and we have to move our feet. So I just want to kind of get your take on that as well, because I know this has been a big conversation for us, and I'm getting to the point where I'm just like tired of like hearing the sob story, and I just want people to understand to start moving their feet and putting in the work.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So this is actually topic right here is one of my favorite pieces, right? So I'm going to kind of put it this way, which is funny because I think it was either last week at church or a couple weeks before the pastor brought this quote up.
Yeah.
And I wanted to talk to him afterwards and been like, hey, I want to share with you how to go deeper. But then I'm like, how am I going to, give advice to the pastor?
Yeah.
But I struggled. I was like, hey, I don't know if he knew the back part. So he brought up a verse where it's in Ecclesiastes where it says, it goes through the whole thing. I won't do it all, but the important piece is, time and chance happen to us all. And a lot of times people will take that and they'll try to fit it into like luck, but that's not what it's talking about. So when it talks about time and chance happen to us all, you got to understand what time and chance represent. So time represents preparation and chance represents opportunity. So what he's saying is, right, when preparation meets opportunity, that's when like it happens, right? So we miss the preparation part. So we have to be prepared. So when the opportunity arises, we walk through and time will no longer expose us. Because if you're not prepared, two things will happen. Either A, you're never going to walk through the doors of opportunity because you probably won't even see them. Or B, you'll see it, you'll walk through it, but time's a great exposer and you'll fan out, right? So being prepared, then you'll be able to walk through the doors of opportunity because opportunity happens to us all. We all have opportunity every single day. So that's what he's talking about. And let me bring it back to a verse. Yeah. So you are an actual story. So when everyone knows the story of David and Goliath. Well, it's interesting. There was thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of men at the battle. Opportunity.
Yeah.
They all had opportunity to actually go and fight the giant. They were there. They were in the battle. I would say they were at the battle, which shows me that you could be at the battle, but not be in the battle.
Yeah.
But the interesting part about it is David shows up. We know the story, sees what's going on. Here's the giant, defying the armies of God, steps in, and the rest is history, right? Well, David, if you were to go back, David prepared himself before when he was a shepherd. There was two stories he talks about when the lion grabbed the sheep and the bear. And the Bible says he chased both of them and fought him and got it back. And the lion, not only did he fight it, he grabbed it by the beard and he got it back. So he prepared during this time. So when the opportunity arose, he walked through the doors. So I think that's how it is with life. Like you have to prepare yourself so you're ready to walk through those doors of opportunity. And it's funny because Abraham Lincoln has a quote, which I love a lot of his quotes. This one I don't agree with, but he says, I will prepare and perhaps my time will come. The bottom line is your time comes, whether you're prepared or not. The question is, will you be prepared to see it and walk through the door?
Yeah, that is so true. Because I can't tell you the amount of times where I've heard stories of opportunities coming up and somebody's like, I can't pull the trigger on that right now. It's like, that was a missed opportunity. And it's like, how many of those do we go through life of all these missed opportunities that we could have had? I mean, I hear it all the time. Oh, I could have done this and I could have done that. And it's like, yeah, you could have, but you didn't. And at some point you have to take that leap and take on a little bit of risk. We were talking about that this morning, about risk. And I think that goes to the David and Goliath story as well. Is like David was willing to take the risk. He knew what the consequence was if it didn't go according to plan, which was death, but he took the risk. And I was talking to you this morning about, possibly opening up this second location. It's like, it puts us out of a comfort and it's definitely a risk because right now we can sustain the current location with just Crystal working if we needed to, but opening up another location puts us outside of this comfort of like, hey, it's comfortable, things are good. Sometimes you have to take that step and step outside of the comfort, take that risk in order to have the bigger reward. And I think, when you do take that step, you have to have faith and faith that the Lord's calling you to that. Make sure you're in prayer during the time and just making sure that you're doing everything unto him, because at the end of the day, it becomes his bill if he's in it, right? Yeah. So it's like, now you're just walking in faith, like, Lord, I don't know how this looks. I don't know how we're here, how we got here, but I just keep taking step after step after step. And I'm just going to keep following you and have faith that you're going to provide the finances to keep this thing going and provide jobs for people and allow us to pour into people through you and use you to pour into people and, speak your name into these locations and let it be a place of like your glory, and That's Crystal and I's heart, is to just keep spreading his love through each location. And that's part of what's in our mission statement, our vision statement, our core values is like God's love.
Mm.
And so, yeah, I guess all that to say, like, sometimes you just have to take risk.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about today, the quote, no risk it, no biscuit.
Yeah.
I think, at the end of the day, you grow. This is where you grow. So you grow, you step out in faith. You don't see the whole picture, and you're not supposed to see the whole picture. Like, God's not going to show you the whole picture. I mean, he could, but I think the reason he doesn't is because we'll probably get afraid and we'll turn around. Yeah. And a story, and I'm going to give you a story in the Bible to validate this, is when God delivered his people from Egypt. There's a small section that says there's basically a shortcut, but they would go by the Philistines. Well, the Philistines were people of war since they were kids. That's why in David he says, you're a youth, and he's been a man of war since his youth, right? Mm. Because they trained when they were little. So the shortcut would be to walk by there. But God knew that if he did that, they would run back. So he took them the long way. So sometimes it's the same way with us, right? God knows what he's doing. So what we have to do is, do we have faith? Do we believe it? And do we trust him? And if we do, we'll move our feet. And I think that no matter what happens, even if we're going in a direction that maybe is not the direction that we're going to go, at the end of the day, all things work for the good. He'll redirect it. And the learning lessons that we learn on the lesson will help us to be able to be prepared so we're able to walk through the actual door of opportunity that we're supposed to walk through.
Yeah, I actually want to touch on this a little bit even more, because people are like, well, what if I fail? Great. You learned a lot during the failure.
Yep.
Like, I've had tons of businesses that weren't successful before the salon.
Yeah.
And it's like, at some point you start learning things along the way to where it's like, okay, I know how to do X, Y, and Z now. And I know how to do A, B, and C. And you start learning all these different tools through each failure to be able to finally put all the pieces together and be like, you know what? I know how to put all the pieces together now, and I know how to create something that can be sustainable and be something great.
Yeah.
And I think until you start taking the steps, you're never going to learn the tools that you need to be successful. The only way to learn is to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. I always think of a baby. We have a grandbaby he learned how to walk before he was 8 months, which was crazy. And he's just like crazy now. He's like climbs up on everything. And when he's here, our job is just to keep him safe. But I just think to myself, like, when he learned how to walk, he probably fell down 1,000 times. I mean, can you imagine if we had the same thought process when we were kids as we do now? We're like, oh, I don't want to, I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm going to get hurt. And then you're like 20 years old and you're crawling around everywhere. It'd be foolish. And I know it's funny, and like, we're like, that would never happen.
Yeah.
But at what moment in our life did we start listening to the lies from the enemy? Because it's the lie from the enemy.
Yeah.
Like, you have to go through a preparation process on everything. And during that process, we fall, and then we get up and we fall. That's how we learn. That's how you learn how to do the things you got to do. It's by like repeated over and over, and failure over and over and over again. Yeah. So I look at failure as steps. It's just a step. It's a step. It's another step. It's a step. And it gets you closer. It's the developmental process to get you ready. It's the preparation to get you ready for what it is that God has for you. But if you never do, now here's the deal. God's purpose is going to get done. So it's going to get done with you or with somebody else. Yep. But the thing about it is, why not with you? So go through the preparation. If you put it on your heart, who cares what you look like? Do it. And if you talk to anyone successful, they're going to tell you, you know how many times the story of J.K. Rowling? Come on. Like, how many people told her stuff was no good? She'll never make it. Like, how many?
Yeah.
And what's her net worth now? Like, yeah. You know what I mean? So like, persevere. And that's why I think when God said man's precious possession is persevering, persevere through it all.
And I think we always have to be in a constant state of learning. I think the moment we stop learning is the moment your dreams and everything dies.
Yeah.
I think the moment you get to, I know it all, you've already lost.
Yeah.
Because I think no one knows everything. I mean, Elon, as much as he knows, he's got people working that are very smart for him. He couldn't do it without them.
Yeah.
So it's like just staying in that constant state of like, great, I may have failed at this attempt. I mean, again, how many rockets has he sent up that failed before they started being successful?
Yeah.
It's like you have to keep at it, and while you're at it, keep learning and not, again, go back to the sob story of like, oh, poor me, it didn't work out. Like, no, get back up and go at it again.
Yeah.
Another thing that I was I kind of talked to Crystal about this a little bit this week was, do you think God put it in some people to just enjoy working? And I'm kind of speaking on myself as well. Like, I find myself to just enjoy working. Like, it's not like I look forward to the weekend to be off for the weekend. It's like, I honestly look more forward to Monday to get back to work and like to the grind of things. But I know not everyone's wired that way. And so sometimes it can kind of feel like, man, is there something wrong with me? Like I literally just enjoy doing what I'm getting or able to do.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a conversation that we had, and I kind of wanted to get your take on this and kind of see what you thought about this. Cause I know, you enjoy work too. And, I don't know, just kind of bring that up and see where you're at.
Yeah. So it's a good question. And I mean, I wish I could tell you that this is for sure the answer, but I look at it like this. I believe work is a God thing. I think, it's in us and it's good. Work is good. And I think that's why, when God gave us a 7-day rest, even though it's a picture of Christ, it's a day to rest. Well, if rest from what? 6 days of work, right? So I think it's a thing, but I think what happens is we're in a culture, especially Western culture, where, we work, where most people are employees. You weren't like biblically, you go into the New Testament, you don't really aren't going to read anything about employees. Really the two types of employees back then were soldiers and slaves. Like everyone was in the marketplace, right? Building something. So I think, yes, if you're working, if you're an employee, I think it's just nature. After time, you're going to get like kind of burnt out of it. Mm-hmm. So I don't say it's more of a work thing. I think it's more of a, the avenue that they're in, it's kind of snuffing what God put in them. Mm. I'm going to just say that. That's what I would think. I think if they were, one day if they catch a vision, God put something in their heart, they act on it, I think the work would be different and they would be okay with working that hard to be able to accomplish it.
Yeah.
So I think it's less about, I would guess that it would be less about the work thing and it'd be more about what avenue or what arena are they doing the work. But I think that work is a God thing.
Yeah.
And because it's a God thing, it's a good thing.
Yeah. And that's kind of something she had brought up too, is like, he does call us to rest. And like, even Jesus had a period of rest. But for me, it just feels like I'm able to work until I'm tired, and then I'll take my rest and then keep working.
Yeah.
There's days where maybe I can work 18 hours, and maybe there's another day where my brain's fried after 6 hours. Like,
yeah,
to me, and I've always struggled with the employee side of like the mindset of like going to work 9 to 5. Like, I've never truly understood that, because I feel like maybe one day you can work 18 hours, maybe another day you can only work 6, another day. So it's like, maybe you have these employees that can only work 6 hours that day, and then their brain's fried. What are they doing the other 2 hours? They're not even being productive.
Yeah.
Whereas there's other days. So I think it was in a podcast that I had listened to, where this whole 5-day work week was like only a thing like 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Up until then, there was no such thing as like the 5-day work week.
Yeah.
It was 7 days a week. And so, yeah, it's just something that I've kind of been like thinking about, pondering on, just like, man, is there something that I'm missing here? But no, I think.
Yeah, I don't think so. And I would even look at it, even more than work, where, you're working to build something, you know what I mean? And that's, being made in the image of God. Yeah. God's a builder. So our Father's a builder. which means his children are going to be builders. Intentionally, we're supposed to be builders. And I believe it's in everyone. Some people might be a little further down, but it's there. And I think it's a thing. So when you're in how you were created, I think it's not going to bother you as much to work long hours and do the things you need to do, because it's part of your DNA, because it's the part of the Father's DNA. He's a builder, and he made men in his image.
And then another thing that I have written down here is just talking about planning. I think so many times people are just winging life. I'm just going to wing it. And it's like, no, like you got to have some type of goal. You have to have some type of plan that you're working towards.
Yeah.
Because you need to put things in place to work towards that goal. Like, okay, you have this big goal. What little steps can you take to get to this big goal, right? And the amount of times that I've talked to people and they're like, oh, I want to do this. I'm like, okay, great. What's your plan? Oh, I don't know yet. Okay, so this is really nothing at this point because it's just an idea. Like, ideas are a dime a dozen. Everyone has them.
Yep.
But who's actually going to, put in the work and plan to work towards those? So, I just want to bring up planning too, because I think it's so important, and it's been a thing that I've had multiple conversations with people, and I just wish people would eventually understand, like, in order to start working towards those goals that you dream of, like, you have to have a plan in place. And then once the plan is in place, it goes back to what we talked about earlier, is you have to start taking the steps.
Yeah. I mean, I agree 100%. To me, it's like driving to a destination and not having GPS. Who would do that? Nobody would do that. Nobody. I went golfing in La Quinta yesterday. I know where La Quinta is, but I've never been to the golf course. So what am I going to just drive there and like stop at every gas station, point me? I'm not going to do that. And even if I did, I would get there way, way later than what I would have if I just would have had a plan. So I think plan's the same way, right? You have to have a plan. You got to have a plan. You got to have a good plan. And you need to track and measure the plan.
I was going to say,
and pivot and make adjustments.
Yep.
So you got to be able to be good at those things. I'm not saying that you can't wing it and get there, but I'm saying, why would you wing it and get there? And even if you got there, it's going to be like so much farther, happen so much later. But have a plan. If you're like, well, I don't know how to do it, I've never had one, well, find somebody that's good at it and have them help you. But have a plan, follow the plan, stick to it, make the necessary adjustments. But, what do they say? People don't, plan to fail. They fail to plan. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, for sure. That's kind of what's been on my heart this week. I wanted to see if there's anything that kind of popped up during your week. Is there anything that kind of popped into your head? What's been going on in your world?
Yeah. The only thing I'll just share, one piece, which is interesting. So, it's interesting. Like, I love the golf. I love to get out there, and I wish I would have learned when I was younger. Obviously, I wish I was better, and I love to play. I'm very competitive. It was my number one trait. So I love that. And just being able to like try to do better, like whatever I got in the last hole, I want to do better. But it's so interesting. I never knew this when I was younger, but man, golf is so much like life. It really is. Like, you have a course that somebody created. So they created this course to be played by certain rules. It's literally exactly like what the Lord did. Like, you have a creator that created a course and rules within the course that we're all to play. And it's funny, as you navigate it, some do better at it, some do worse. But one thing I do want to bring up on this piece is, it's funny because sometimes what will happen is, if you've ever golfed, you know what I'm talking about. So like, you'll drive and your ball hook left, and you got a 100-yard wide fairway, and you full on missed it, and you're like left, you're behind a tree, and then there's another tree. And this happened to me once yesterday, where there's a tree here, there's a tree here, and I'm like, I think there's a gap, and we all do that. We're like, hey, I think I see a window. Wait, let me get this straight. I just missed a 100-yard fairway. I missed the whole thing, but I think I can make it in this gap. And we do that. And then what happens is, we hit a branch, we hit another branch, we hit a branch. And what I've learned is, with golf as in life is when you find yourself in trouble, just get back in the fairway. Get back in the fairway, right? Eat the shot. You've learned your lesson, and then go from there. But what happens is, instead of doing that, we just keep hacking and keep hacking and keep hacking. And then we wonder why our score's so high. Just get back in the fairway and then start over.
Yeah. I'm laughing because I know exactly what you're talking about. But yeah, I love it. Again, I just appreciate these conversations. I honestly look forward to these every Thursday now.
Yeah.
So I'm like coming with some notes and things I've thought about during the week, and it's just a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the time of just you taking out of your day to come on here, and look forward to next week.
Yeah. That's
So,
fun.
Until next week, I'm Dylan.
I'm Martin.
And we'll see you then.